My name's Tatiana. I'm here to share the story of what happened to my grandparents. Crazy story. It's going to sound like a documentary.
I'm excited. I'm ready.
Bear with me. A little background on my grandparents. They're my paternal grandparents. Since I was born, they lived here in the States. Mm-hmm. Up until I was 16, they had moved back to Portugal to retire.
And that's where they're from?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where my whole family's from. But my grandpa was like, I need to go back. Can't be here anymore. Whatever. So they went. They sold their apartment. But them being here, my grandparents were... I'm one out of 7 grandkids. So I feel like my siblings and my cousins might be like, bitch, you're lying. But I was probably one of the closest grandkids to them. I mean, I remember going every Sunday to church with them. I would go to my grandparents' house when I was in trouble to hide from my parents and be like, hey, grandma, can you help me? You know, I would do their nails. Like it was a lot of bonding with them. So they were my people. Yeah. And when they went to Portugal, I was like, damn, like they're not going to be here anymore. Right. You know?
And how old were you when they went back?
So I was 16 when they went back. So I was freshly in high school, basically. I think I was a freshman or a sophomore.
Okay. And were you had you ever been over there?
I have.
Okay.
But we weren't going every summer. Like there's families that go every summer. It's just expensive. We're a family of 5. Like each ticket is like $1,400.
Yeah,
so,
it's crazy.
You know, we would go every so often. So from 2016... we didn't see them up until, I think it was 2018 when we saw them again. They had came here, and then that summer we went and surprised them.
Okay.
Most beautiful moment of my life, because, I mean, they're so dramatic. My grandma's a very dramatic crier. Like, she was like, oh, my God. Almost passed out.
Stop.
I'm like, girl, relax. Like, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
But they ended up moving back, and, you know, our routine to keep in touch with them is we had gotten them an iPhone one of the last times they were here, so we could FaceTime every Sunday. And this plays a part into like how everything broke down. But Sundays were our day. Like we would FaceTime them, we would catch up. My dad was very like specific, like I need to see your face every Sunday to make sure like I can, you know, speaking on the phone to somebody across the world, you can't really tell if they're faking it, if they're okay, if they're not. But, you know, FaceTiming, you could be like, okay, like you look a little sick, you know?
You can see their facial expression.
Right.
And, yeah.
So they ended up going, and then fast forward to January of 2024. It was the last time we had spoke to them. Last time I had spoke to them was January, I want to say the 16th, 17th, around my dad's birthday. Because it's my dad's birthday, then my grandpa's birthday, then my grandma's birthday, then my aunt's birthday.
All in a row.
So everyone's on the same week. We had called them, said happy birthday. And then, you know, weekends went by where my dad would call them up until February on Sundays, but I wouldn't be home. I'd be at work. So it was the week of Valentine's Day. So that Sunday before was like February 11th. My dad had tried to call them and nobody answers. And my dad's like, okay, that's weird. Cause usually like they'll call back. We never got a call back. My dad's like, okay, maybe it's because that weekend is like Mardi Gras in Portugal. Like it's carnival weekend. Like everyone's out, everyone's at the churches, like doing things. So my dad was like, okay, like I'll just call them next Sunday. Like no big deal. Wednesday comes around. I think that was, if I'm getting my days right, it was Valentine's Day.
Okay.
And my dad's cousin, Isaac, he had called them. He lives over there. He's an EMT over there. He had called them just checking up because he lived around the corner. So he would, you know, just see if they needed anything. Nobody answers. Okay, this is a cousin that we're very distant with. We weren't close at the time. Friday comes along. I'll never forget. I wasn't sleeping at home. I was out sleeping somewhere. And my mom calls me at 8 a.m., like repeatedly. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, she knows I'm not home. Like, why are you calling me at 8 a.m.? That's so weird. Knowing that I closed the bar the past day, you know? And I woke up and I'm like, hello? My mom's hyperventilating, like, couldn't even get a word out. And I'm like, hello. And she's like, Tatiana. And I'm like, yes, like what's going on? Like I instantly like heart dropped to my stomach. I was like, something's wrong.
Yeah, like,
you know? And she's just like, you need to go find your dad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm thinking my dad's a truck driver. So I'm like, holy shit, like dad probably got into a car accident. Like he probably flipped the truck. Like, you know, just so many things are running through your head in that moment. And I'm like, mom, like, why? Like, what's going on? Like, you need to tell me. And she just like is panicking. Like you couldn't even get a word out of her.
Now, is it her parents or your dad's parents?
It's my dad's parents.
Okay.
So I'm over here like, okay, she's like, and she just kept repeating, you need to go find your dad. You need to go find your dad. I'm like, okay, mom, I'm the only one that has his location. So I'm like, okay, like I'm going to go see where I can find him. And I'm like, but what's going on? I'll never forget. I was getting out of the bed and I'm walking to go see my friend that I was with at the time. And I'm leaving the room and my mom's like, your grandparents were found dead. And I was like, what? And I'll never forget. It's like, weakness just went through my body and I fell. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, both your grandparents were found dead in their home this morning. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I just lost words. Like I broke down for maybe not even a minute. Mm-hmm. Like everything came out. And then I just heard my mom again say, you need to go find your dad. And I instantly was like, okay, I'm going. And it's like I snapped back. Like I was just like, okay, like I was on go time. Like, let me go find him. Like, you know, he's by himself in a dump truck in the middle of nowhere, you know, dropping off dirt or whatever he was dropping off. But, you know, he's by himself. And I'll never forget the drive there. I'm like driving down the highway and I'm just like, fuck, like there's no way. Like someone has to be joking with me at this point, you know, like this can't be true.
It also just like doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because they were healthy. My grandmother was 74. My grandpa was 81. But like they were full of life. Like I'm not even kidding. My grandma, you talk to her at like a restaurant, she sees like a fine man. She's gonna be like, yeah, that's my man. Like in front of my grandpa. Like she was just all like shits and giggles, like didn't care. And my grandpa, like he was a very tiny man, 5 foot, Aww. Very petite, like just a cutie. He just would laugh. Like he was just there, you know? So they had full of life, no illnesses. I mean, they were healthy. So I'm over here like processing in my head, like what the hell happened? You know, like, cause we're not there. 8-hour flight away, you know, like what could have possibly happened for this to occur, you know? And I remember getting to my dad and my dad is like in his truck and he gets out and I can't even explain his face. Like it was just broken. And
so somebody had already told him.
Yeah. Okay. So I asked, so then, you know, I didn't know who had called. Yeah. So I had asked my dad, I'm like, what happened? And he's like, Isaac called me. And mind you, my dad has probably spoken to this cousin maybe like 2 or 3 times in his life. He's a younger cousin. Okay. And I'm just like, what do you mean? I'm like, you know, at the time, I didn't even know who Isaac was. So I was like, who's Isaac? And my dad's like, my cousin. Like, you don't know him, but he's this and this is like little brother. And I'm like, okay, so what happened? My dad was like, he called me and I thought it was weird that he was calling me so early because the time difference, 8 a.m. here is like 1 p.m. over there. Time difference. I'm not even doing math correctly, but like 5 hour, 6 hour difference. My dad was like, I thought it was strange that he was calling me so many times. So I answered and he told me that he was outside of the house and they walked in and grandpa and grandma were dead. And I was just like, what? And my dad's like, I thought he was calling me to tell me they were like in an accident. Cause you know, he's an EMT. Yeah. Not that they were found dead in their home, you know? So my dad couldn't talk the whole ride home. Like he just was breaking down. It was a very silent 45-minute drive home. We get home. My sisters are home. My uncle's there. My dad and his brother are the only 2 kids. 11-year age difference. So my dad's the older brother. So he took it very hard. We get there and, you know, we're just all trying to figure out like, what the fuck happened? You know, because nobody has any explanation for us. So eventually Isaac ends up calling my dad after we're a little bit more like calmed down. And he's like, I'm going to explain to you like what had happened of what we know. So it's my grandmother's house. And then there's a lady that lives in front. Her name's Amelia. She's my grandma's best friend. I mean, they've known each other way before my dad and my uncle were born. So on Fridays, she would go and help my grandma clean the house because she's a little younger. So she has more like strength. So she would go on Fridays to help. She had went that Friday morning. She was knocking on the doors and nobody was answering. And she was like, what the hell? Like it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Why isn't anybody answering? My grandparents were early birds. Yeah. So she ends up hopping like the fence. It's like a gated house or whatever. So she ends up hopping the fence. She's banging on all the doors. Nobody's answering. She finally comes around to one of the windows and she peeks in. It's the closet, my grandma's closet. And she sees my grandma's legs. And she's like, oh my God, she collapsed. Like instant thought, like, oh my God, she fell down, you know, because you can't see a face. So she had called, you know, the EMTs and she was like, you guys need to hurry up. I think she collapsed.
So that's how Isaac comes into it.
Yes.
Okay.
So then, you know, she's continuously banging. She's like, but wait, like, where's Antonio, which was my grandpa's name. She's like, that's so strange. Like, he would have been the one answering the door. Why isn't anybody answering? And then she had called back and she was like, no, I think you guys need to hurry up. Because in Portugal, they take like 20 minutes to get to you. They're not very urgent. So she was like, you guys have to hurry up because I think something is actually really wrong because the husband isn't answering the door either, you know? So eventually they come. God knows how long it took them. They end up breaking one of the doors down. And from what Isaac told us, he wasn't allowed in the house physically because once they put two and two together, they're like, no, this is your aunt's house. Like, you can't go in, but you can stay outside. He said they weren't even in there for more than like a minute. They walked in, they came out, and they're like, there's nothing we can do.
So how long had you not spoken to them again in between?
I didn't speak to them for a few weeks.
Okay.
My dad didn't speak to them for one weekend, which was the weekend prior.
And he had tried to call, right? And
Tried to call them that Sunday, yeah.
Okay. Were they okay then?
So nobody answers. So from the backstory, you know, we asked the neighbors when we got there, like, hey, you know, when's the last time they were seen? Right. And Amelia was like, well, I saw them Sunday. There was the party up the street. It's a very close range as to where everything is. Yeah. She was like, they were up there. They went and had lunch. My grandma has 3 dogs. They are her kids. Okay. They're so spoiled. Sundays, she would buy them like a whole grilled chicken and feed it to them. She was like, she bought the chicken. She was walking home. And as I saw her before she went in the house, she stopped by Amelia and was like, hey, like, you know, me and Antonio are going to go to the bank in the city. Red flag because that was very random. But I need to ask you a favor. And Amelia's like, okay, like, what is it? And she's like, if anything happens to me, promise me you'll take care of my dogs. And Amelia's like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, thinking, okay, my grandma's supposed to have hip surgery the week after. She's like, Maria, what are you talking about? You're just having hip surgery. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, you're being dramatic. And, you know, that's what Amelia thought. Like, okay, maybe she's just overthinking her surgery, you know? And my grandma was very adamant. She was like, no, promise me you'll take care of my dogs. And Amelia's like, okay, but like, is anything wrong? And my grandmother was so good at hiding like the truth. Like, she could really put in like a straight face and you would never tell like if she was lying or not. And she was like, no, everything's fine. Like, just promise me you'll keep that promise. Like, cause you know, my dogs are like my world, you know? And Amelia's like, okay, like I'll do it. Like, you know, like whatever. I'm not going to fight you on it. And my grandma's like, okay, like see you later. And they proceeded to go home. That had to be around maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon. For my grandfather to drive after 4 p.m., very rare. Because, you know, he's at an old age. He hated driving at night, even when he lived here. Yeah. You know, it was very not like them. So Amelia was like, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, you know, they were going to go to the bank and they were going to come back home. From Sunday, they were never seen until they were found on Friday. Which is like, it's something that pissed me off too, because it's like all the neighbors around there, they're so nosy. They're in everybody's business, okay? They walk past everybody's house to see who has guests over, who's doing what. And it's like one thing that the dogs did, it's like an open patio, right? They tore up all the couches, newspapers, anything they found, they tore it up. And it's like they were signaling somebody to come. Nobody noticed that the blinds were never open. The blinds are like a wooden panel. It's very old school. Nobody opened the windows in a week. Almost a week, you know? No one noticed the red flags. And it's just like everybody's usually nosy until it was actually necessary to be nosy. Yeah. So they weren't found up until Friday. So even till this day, we don't know the time frame of how long they were dead for. We just know they were last seen on Sunday and then they were found basically 5 days later, you know? So backing up to when the paramedics went in, they came out and they were just like, no, they're long gone. And Isaac's like, okay. And that's all Isaac knows. And that's all he had told my dad. He was like, that's all I know. They won't tell me anything. You know, like the FBI their form of FBI agents are there. And, you know, the police are there. Like, you know, they're going to investigate. So my dad's like, okay, I guess we'll just see you tomorrow. Cause me and my dad were first flight next day. And so we're watching the Portuguese news because, of course, something like that so bad happening, everyone's going to be nosy. Yeah. News reporters came. I'll never forget the first time we saw it on the news. It was a picture of them. And they had said the first storyline was that they had committed suicide. And I was like, excuse me? My grandparents were very religious. Like, I'm talking about my grandma worked in the churches all my life. My grandfather's Bible was like this big. Like, I'm talking about very religious, okay? They would never do such a thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no. So my mom's best friend had reached out to the reporter and was like, you need to take that story down. Because why are you making something up like that? Like, that is very malicious. Like, why would you do that? Mm-hmm. She was like, oh, it's just something that we heard from the neighbors. What?
Right.
Like, that makes no sense. She ended up taking it down. Then a few hours later, they post the picture again. They're like, oh, yeah, it was a gas leak. And I'm like,
what's the point of just like...
Exactly. Making up stories.
Yeah. I guess because they figure people want answers and it's just easier, but still.
But it's just like, you're kind of just making everyone spiral at this point,
And especially, it's not fair to the family.
Not at all. Even to the point where not even the cops had contacted us. No one had contacted us while they're doing all this. If it wasn't for Isaac being our family, we would have never known until God knows how long,
Probably until you saw the news.
Yeah. And it's crazy because then... the second story of the gas leak, they had said that Amelia said that she smelled gas. She was like, Tatiana, I never smelled gas when I went over to the house. She was like, so I don't know where they got that from. So it's like, not only are you lying about a story, but you're lying on people's names. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not right. Then my mom's best friend talks to the lady again and she's like, what are you doing? Like, really, what are you doing? She's like, oh, that's just, what the firefighters told us. And it's just like, okay, that's the third story, like whatever. Third story comes out. It was carbon monoxide poisoning. And this is the story that they stuck with. And I'm just like, okay. Like at this point, like I'm ready to go there. Like I need to see it with my own eyes because at this point it's too many words in the pot. Like what are we doing? We end up getting there the next day. You would think, okay, 2 people are found dead in their home. You would think the house is going to be taped off. Yeah. Like no. After they removed their bodies, the house was open to the public. Whoever wanted to walk in there was allowed to walk in there. And it's kind of just like, seeing how crime scenes are dealt with here and over there, it's 2 different worlds. Like, they don't give a shit over there. Yeah.
Were you guys allowed to request an autopsy?
So we did.
Okay.
We only got it back, like, last month. And it's been... a year and like 2 months.
So there's just like no sense of urgency over there.
Not at all. 0. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're an older person. Yeah. You're just swept under the rug. Like they don't care at all. They're just like, oh, you're old. Like, no one really cares about you. But they kind of messed with the wrong family because I was in like fight or flight mode. Yeah. Once I landed... getting to the house, I was like, why the fuck is the door open? Mm-hmm. Like, where is everybody? And Amelia's there guarding the house, but she's a little old lady. Like,
and the doors weren't even locked?
So the door that they had broke, like, it was a glass door. So that's really hard to replace. Yeah. So, we had to wait. Because when you're in Portugal, I know a lot of foreign countries do this. When you die, your oldest child immediately becomes head of household of everything you own. Mm-hmm. So you can only do anything with the head of household. Okay. So we had to wait till my dad got there to get permission to do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. When we got there, we walked in the house. My dad was like, Tatiana, I can't do it. Like he walked in for like 2 seconds and he walked right out and he was like, I can't be in here. And I was like, okay, then I'll do it. My dad he has a very sensitive spot with me. Like he's very close to my heart. Not my favorite parent, but I definitely feel more for him. Mm-hmm. My mom's tough. Like she's just like, whatever, Yeah. My dad's very sensitive. So I was like, okay, Dad, like, I'll bite the bullet. I'll go through the house. Like, you just stay outside. Mm-hmm. Walking in the house, it was weird because it was just, it happened right at the entrance. So you walk in the front door and here's a restroom and then here's the closet. So both doors like kind of look at each other. My grandfather was found dead on the toilet with a mask on his face. He had obviously, used the bathroom and he had thrown up in a bucket next to him. So obviously something was going on to the point where things were coming out of both ends, mm-hmm. which is like, how rare is that?
Bizarre.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, weird. Where my grandmother was, literally they kind of died looking at each other because she had collapsed and she was like in an L shape and her head was like at the point of the door. She had foam coming out of her mouth. When they like dried up foam, there was a lot of like liquids. So she had to like collapse and just die instantly. My grandfather, I'm assuming he was sick. So then, you know, I'm thinking of this. I'm seeing the mark on the floor. I'm seeing how the bathroom is. You know what I mean? The smell, like it's so many things going on. And like homes there don't have like centralized units.
And that's
of, like
I
AC.
feel like traumatizing to a certain degree.
No, it was traumatizing.
Taking in all of that stuff at once. It's just like, and knowing it's from your family is
it was a big shock. I feel like I felt like I closed out my emotions in that time. Because I felt like I've never been the type to cry in front of my family, speak about my feelings. I'm very like closed off.
Yeah.
But I feel like because it was my dad's, like, you know, it affected him. I was like, no, I have to like be the big person and like, you know, do this for him. Like I have to take care of things for him, you know, and just let him really feel the feels. I can deal with my feelings later.
Yeah.
You know, but seeing it was just the house is cold. There's no heater because everything's like fireplace or just no AC at all. You just have the windows open, you know? And I'm over here like, okay, like I'm walking around the house. I'm like, okay, what's standing out to me? There was a cup of wine that wasn't finished between their two little like lazy boy chairs where they would watch TV. It was like 3/4 finished. One thing about my grandparents, they always shared one cup. Like anywhere they went, they'd be like, no, we'll just drink out of one cup and share it, you know? And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. So I saw the wine glass and I'm like, okay, they probably had wine, you know? I went into their rooms. They slept in separate beds because, you know, they snored and they didn't want to bother anybody's sleep. Both beds are unmade. One thing about my grandparents, clean freaks. I'm talking about OCD, like would never leave the house or even get out of their room first before making their bed. And I'm just like, okay, this is weird. Like this gives me, they got up in a hurry, you know? And on top of that, my grandmother cannot see without her glasses and her glasses were on her pillow still. And I'm just like, okay. Like I'm trying to like put pieces together. Like what the fuck happened that night? Because it had to be at night. They died in their pajamas, right? I'm just like, okay, that's odd because they never stayed in them. Like once they got up, they changed and it was to continue the day. They died in their pajamas. So I was like, okay, it had to happen either Sunday night or Monday night. But I'm leaning more towards Sunday because no one saw any movement on Monday, which is weird. So I'm like, okay, they probably went to bed Sunday. They probably had a glass of wine. Now what's next? Like what else could have possibly happened? You know, I'm going through the house and one thing that stood out to me, my grandmother has, is it 3 or 4? I think it's 4 deep freezers. Okay. Mind you, my dad was just there previously in September. Those freezers were filled with food. When I went and looked at them, they were empty. The only thing that was in one of those freezers was my grandfather's birthday cake. And I was like, where the fuck is all the food? Like, they're not starving. Like, you know what I mean? This was just packed like 5 months ago, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, how many months ago, you know? Like, that's so weird. And I immediately run outside to tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, there's no food in this house. My dad's like, what are you talking about, Tatiana? Like, my grandma was always known to have her house. I mean, whose grandmother doesn't, you know?
Just stocked up, yeah.
Not even water bottles. No, my family loves Coca-Cola. No soda, no beers, nothing. Just that one glass of wine that I found. Everything else is empty. And I'm like, okay, this is very weird. Like, very unlike them. Like, what really happened? So I end up going through the rest of the house. You know, I'm just like, okay, like, what else stands up to me? In that moment, I feel like I was just too, how do I explain it? I was too blank. Like, I was just like, okay, I've had enough for today. Can't do it. I'll be back tomorrow, you know? So we went home. We ended up staying at a hotel because my dad's like, I can't stay anywhere near this house. Like, I just can't do it. And when you walked in the house, you would feel like a very strong energy. Like, I can't, I get too many like spiritual energies that I can feel. And it's like when you walked in that house, it was not only because it was cold, it's like you could feel something like telling you to get out, you know?
And when you were there in the past, you never felt that way?
Never felt that. It's like something was trying to talk to me and I couldn't like pick signs up, you know? The next day, you know, I catch up on my sleep because jet lag was really bad. I go there first thing in the morning. My dad, same thing. He's like, Tati, I can't be here. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll go through things. I'll go through their clothes, see what I can find. Our main priority was to see what was stolen, what could have been stolen out of the house. My grandparents had so much gold. My grandmother she was a jewelry person, like loved it. And I'm like, okay, she had her prized possessions. Let me find them. Girl, I could not find them that first day. I was like, there's no way. There's no way I can't find it. Because she was really good at hiding things. And I was like, okay, maybe tomorrow I'll find them. But that whole day, I'm like running through their clothes. I'm talking about going through every single pocket of every jean, like anything that I could find, I was going through. Couldn't really find much. And I'm like, damn, like this is weird. Because usually like my grandma would have like a few bucks here, maybe like a few hundreds over there, like just hidden in different spots. Couldn't find anything. So I'm like, okay, like were they robbed? You know, but the cops said there was no forced entry. I'm like, okay. During that time, during the first 2 days, one of my dad's cousins, we're going to name him Mark, because I can't say his actual name. He, very weird guy, not a fan of him. Never married, don't got no kids, doesn't have friends, very awkward. When you're around him, you're just like, you know?
Yeah.
Gives you an off feeling. He, the second day, was just, oh my God, just too much. Was following us around everywhere. And I'm just like, okay. And I'll never forget that day, the second day that I was in the house by myself. My dad's like, Tati, I'm going to be up at the cafe, which is literally like, you can see it from the house. He's like, I'm going to go drink a beer. Like, you do what you got to do. I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave the door open because the doors there aren't a knob. You just have to open it with a key. I was like, don't take the keys because then you'll lock me inside. And if I lock you from outside, then how am I going to know you're here?
Yeah.
You know? So I was like, I'll just leave the door cracked. I'm going through my grandmother's room at this point, and my back is against the door, and I'm like going through her dresser. And I don't know what told me to turn around, but instantly like I turned around and there's Mark right behind me. No hello, no hey, I'm here, just staring at me. And I'm like, hello? I'm like, you couldn't announce yourself?
Yeah, like how long
here?
you've been standing there?
And he's just like, oh no, Tati, I was just checking. And I was like, checking for what?
Yeah.
He's like, oh no, like just seeing. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, can you leave? You know, because this is my time. Like, you have no right to be in here at all, you know? He's like, okay, I'm leaving. I was like, oh, okay. We end up going to dinner that night, just me and my dad. And guess who shows up unannounced? Mark does. He's like, oh, like, you know, can I join you guys? And me and my dad are just like, okay. Like, this is a cousin, like, my dad's familiar with, but we've always had a very eerie feeling about him. My grandmother fucking hated him.
Okay.
So you
didn't have any type of, like, close relationship?
No. He was my grandfather's nephew. So when my grandfather's sister passed away, because Mark doesn't have any family, my grandfather felt the need to, like, take him in as a son, essentially. This grown-ass man. God knows why. So I wasn't close. My dad had been with him a few times, but my dad was always just like, he's just whatever, you know? So we end up having dinner together, and it's just like, okay, like, you know, I don't suspect anything. Like, he's just weird, so whatever. The next day, same routine. I'm going through the house again. I'm just like, okay, every day I'm just going to keep going to see what pops up. And every drawer that I had looked at the day before, something new appeared the next day. Like, there was this one chain that I was looking for that had a pearl. I'm not even wearing it today, but I have it. I was looking for it. The first day and the second day, I couldn't find it. The third day, in the same drawer, because I kept repeating my steps, like following them again, it would show up. Or like the same jeans that I had just went in through, like the past day, I would find like $100 in there or like $20 here. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, am I crazy?
Yeah.
You know, like things were just showing up. And I'm like, there's no way. And like my mom's very like spiritual. So she's like, who knows? Maybe your grandma's like placing things for you to find them, you know? And I don't know, just her telling me that kind of gave me some warmth. Like, I'm like, okay. So I would like talk in the house by myself. I'm like, okay, grandma, like, can you put things where like I can find things? Cause this is hard and it's cold in here, you know? And the third day of me going through the house with the idea of carbon monoxide, right? I'm like, okay, let me look at the fireplace. The fireplace hadn't been used. So I'm just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
You know, there's just no way. Where would it have come from? There's not even a gas stove in the primary house. It's in an outside kitchen. So there's no way of any type of carbon monoxide growing in that house.
Did they say that they tested for that or they just...
No, they just assumed.
Okay.
Yeah. They said because of the way the condition of their bodies were, that it was carbon monoxide.
Okay, and how they didn't think it was odd, like where they died?
Mm-hmm, exactly. And I had told them, so the third day after I went through the house and found a few things, my dad was like, okay, we're going to go to the detectives or whatever. And I was like, okay, let's go. We went. At first, they let me in the room until they like kicked me out and just kept my dad. But I had asked them, I was like, how are you going to say it's carbon monoxide poisoning by the way they died when a carbon monoxide poisoning, it's a silent killer. If you were asleep, you would have stayed asleep. Mm-hmm. You would be in a coma. And then your organs, your body would just slowly shut down. I was like, you would not get out of bed, right? Let alone walk that far across the house. They were like, no, it was carbon monoxide poisoning. And I'm like, but how do you know that?
So at this point, they weren't investigating it?
No. They were just like, no, it's carbon monoxide poisoning, and that's it. They tried to close the case right then and there. And I'm just like, there's no way. Like, how are you going to sit here and tell us that it was one thing if you haven't even tested for it, you know? And they were just like, oh, you know, we have better cases to work on. And I was like, excuse me? Like, oh, no, yeah, we have like bigger cases that are more important that need to be worked on. Like, your case is basically closed. Like, okay, that's a smack in the face. Yeah. You know? Eventually, they had kicked me out of the room, and they're just like, no, we need to speak to your dad. Like, you know, since he's the son, like, we'll just speak to him. And I'm like, okay. And at this time, we didn't know they were interrogating anybody, but they had interrogated Amelia. And they had told her that we thought she was a person of interest. And we're just like, what? She comes out. I'm sitting outside, you know, waiting for my dad. And here she comes shivering, like crying, like panic attack. And she's like, Tatiana, you thought I did something? And I'm over here like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. She's like, they just told me that you guys thought that I did something. And I was like, what? I was like, no, never. Right. Like, never in a million years would I have thought that she did something. You know what I mean? And she was like, no, that's what they told me. Like, they interrogated me and thought, and they were trying to blame me for something. So I'm over here like, okay, if they're trying to say it's carbon monoxide poisoning, why are you interrogating people? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It like does not add up at all. So I had stormed back in there and I was just like, so you're interrogating people, but you're saying it's carbon monoxide poisoning. So what is it? Because it's not making any sense. If it's carbon monoxide poisoning, okay, cool. There's no suspects, no people of interest to look into. But here you are questioning her just because she knocked on the door and called you guys.
And lying, saying that you guys
said it.
Suspecting her. Yeah.
You know? And they were just like, oh, no, like, that's not true. Like, kind of just, like, dismissing me at this point. And I'm just like, you know what? Before I end up saying something that will get me in trouble, let me just walk out, cool down. And I went and spoke to her, and I was like, Amelia, never in a million years. Like, at this point, I see you as, like, my grandmother. Like, you were her closest person here, you know? Right. We ended up squashing that, moving on. She ends up going home, and I'm just like, Amelia, you know, we'll pass by your house later and, like, talk to you. Like, just calm down, because we didn't want her to have, like, a heart attack or something, you know? Yeah. But I had to, like, assure her that we never would have thought that it was her. So it gets to the point where my dad is just like, okay, like, you know, do you guys have any other people of interest that you're looking into? And they're like, no. And my dad's like, okay. So we left that day, right? And we're just like, okay, like, who could have possibly, like, had access to them? Long and behold, Mark is the only person that has keys to every door of that house. And we didn't know this until, like, the second, third day. And that day when we had put two and two together, we were just like, what the fuck? Like, he has keys, you know? And my dad had met up with him that night and was just like, Mark, you need to give me the keys to my house. Mark's like, no, it's my house. I'm not giving you the keys. I can open the door for you, but I'm not giving you my keys. And my dad's like, no, you need to give me my keys. And he's just like, no, they're my keys.
Technically, your dad would own it now.
Yeah.
Right?
He's trying to claim that it's for him because he was basically the son that lived in Portugal. But it's like, they're not even your parents. Right. You know? Mm-hmm. And it was, I'm not even kidding. I remember just watching this whole conversation. It was like maybe an hour and a half of fighting about these keys. And mind you, this man is half the height of my dad. I just told my dad, I was like, why don't you just beat his ass? Because at this point, it's like you're making it hard. Like, why are you being like this? Clearly, like, there's something that you don't want us to know you're holding back. Because if you were really genuine, you'd be like, oh, here's the keys to your house. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not, why are you putting up a fight? Yeah. It was just very, like, passive aggressive. Like, what's going on? Instant red flag. We go to sleep that night. And the next morning, I, like, woke up my dad and I was like, no, something's not right. I was like, something about him is like driving me nuts. He's showing up everywhere that we're at. He shows up at the house unannounced. He made a fight over the keys, for God's sake, and said that it's his house, knowing damn right it's not his house.
Yeah.
You know? And so my dad was like, something's weird. Like, I don't want to be around him. I don't want to be near him. My dad's like, okay, like, you know, if we see him, you know, I'll just tell him to leave. I'm like, okay, cool. That same day, back to the routine. I went back to the house. I like drove myself crazy for 2 weeks going through this house until my sisters got there because they didn't end up getting there until like 2 days before the funeral. So every day I was going to the house, and every single day after that day after the keys were found, he would show up while I was in that house by myself. The same exact day would just show up behind me. And I'm just like...
Would he ever try to talk to you or say anything?
No, he would never announce himself. And then he'd just be like, I'm just looking at what you're doing.
So just hovering.
Yeah. And I'm just like, for what? Like, what do you need? Do you need something?
Yeah.
Like, do you need food or something? Because there's none here.
Would he leave?
Know? He would leave after I would tell him to leave. But like, if I wouldn't have, like, there was one day where I was just like, I was so out of it. I was mentally drained. I didn't even feel like talking that day. I saw him and I just walked right past him. And he just kept hovering around me until I snapped at him. I was like, can you get the fuck away from me? Because it's just like, now you're following me. Like, you can be in the house. Cool. I don't care.
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable.
But stop following me around the house when it's just me and you. And I don't even know you like that to begin with.
It's also just like disrespectful.
Exactly.
To the family.
Like, it's just like, what do you want?
Yeah.
You know? So it got to the point where my dad had confronted him and was just like, you need to leave Tatiana alone. Like, stop showing up to the house. Stop showing up unannounced because you're making her uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, it's getting out of hand at this point. And he took it so offensively. And my dad was like nice about it, you know? Like, hey, just, you know, give her space. Like, she's going through it, you know, very nice. I wouldn't have said it that way, but, you know, I give my dad props. But he took it offensively and then stopped coming near us completely. And I was just like, okay, like, I didn't mean it that way, but like, at least announce yourself when you're coming by, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm already shit scared being in this house by myself. It's cold. The energy's weird. Like, I'm traumatized. I'm trying to think about what happened in this house. And here you are showing up unannounced. Like, of course it's going to scare me and make me uncomfortable, you know? So he ended up not talking to us the remainder of the trip. I was there for 3 weeks. So eventually my sisters get there and my uncle gets there. It's just them three that get there. And we're like, okay, you know, like the funeral's going to be, I can't even remember what day of the week it was on. Whenever the funeral was. Like, the funeral's going to be this day. And then, you know, that'll be it. You know, and then we'll have a week together where all of us can spend time together.
Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Peak. I always struggle with dehydration. I feel like no matter how much water I drink, no matter what, I am always thirsty. And another thing I've realized is every time I drink a bunch of water, I'm always peeing it right out, which I've come to learn that it means that my body is not properly absorbing the water that I'm drinking. And obviously with being dehydrated comes dry skin, low energy, and pretty much everything else negative that you can think of. But with that negativity comes some positivity because I have since discovered Peak's Radiant Skin Duo, and it is genuinely a game changer for me. My energy levels are skyrocketing, and I mean that. I feel like before, no matter how much coffee or energy drinks I drank, I was still tired. My hydration is way better. My skin is glowy. It's hydrated, and I'm not peeing every 5 seconds. So all of these things combined have really just changed the game for me. And I feel like overall, I'm just able to get the hydration that I need. One of my personal favorite products from Peak is the BT Fountain Electrolytes. I am so big on putting something in my water that not only has some flavor, but it doesn't have any added sugar. It will hydrate me and give me all of the nutrients basically that I need when drinking water. And these electrolytes have done just that for me. Not only do they taste so good, but the hydration is completely on another level. If you're tired of feeling depleted and want to finally nourish your body the right way, now's the time. Get 20% off plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker with my exclusive link, peaklifecom/insane. That's PIQUE life.com/INSANE. Do not sleep on this. Your body and your skin will thank you.
So, you know, leading up to the funeral, you know, we went back to the house so that my sisters can see it, my uncle can see it. Obviously, it's like cleaned up and not like how it was when I got there. And I guess because it was cleaned up, it didn't. I don't know how it affected them because honestly, none of us have talked about it. We're not really good at talking about like how we feel. Like, do we have moments? Yeah, but like how it affected us? No. Like nobody knows how I feel about it. You know, and it's so bad. I mean, now they probably will. But, you know, it was weird. Like, they were just like, okay, like, you know, it's not that bad in here. The door was fixed. Everything was cleaned. All the marks were clean. The only thing that could not get off the floor was the spot on the wood where my grandmother's fluids were coming out. That stain could not come out. So it's just there. So I was like, whatever, you know, like, this is where grandma died. This is where grandpa died, you know. This is the house, you know, like, I don't know how to tell you guys, but this is where it happened. And everyone just kind of, it was like a moment of silence. Like, you know, I was already comfortable in there. Like, I was like, okay, I've been here for 2 weeks. Like,
yeah, and by yourself.
Yeah, like, I'm already comfortable being in here. But it hit them when they got there. And then that day we just took the time to like go through pictures and like who was taking what, like who wanted to keep this item from the house. Like, cause there's a lot of cute things that we all brought back home. So then, you know, fast forward, we're like spending time together. We eventually go to the funeral. And at this point, we still don't know anything, no answers, no investigations are going on from what they said. Oh, backtrack. When they went through the house, they said they took samples of things. There's no samples taken of anything. And I know that because there was like a plate of food. It was like pasta, but it was like molded because obviously days went by.
Yeah.
It wasn't touched. You would think like they would take a piece of the pasta. They would like take the cup to see who like touched it. Nothing. Yeah. They didn't take anything from the house. They just took the bodies and left. So fast forward to the funeral. I remember waking up so early. I think it was like 7 a.m. It was a drag, I remember, because it was raining. It was cold. We're all getting ready. And how it works is the like viewing and the funeral is like at the same time in the church. And they were just like, okay, like you guys get 30 minutes before anybody can go in to see the bodies. And we're like, okay. So we get there and my dad has these, they're like second, third cousins. I don't know what the hell they are. It's like a mom and her 2 daughters. I can't stand them. I've always gotten a bad vibe from them because whenever there was times where I would FaceTime my grandmother and she'd be like, oh, look who's here. Like the girls are here. And they would just like, I could tell they were bribing my grandmother. My grandmother loved shopping. But like they would like make my grandma buy them all these like expensive things. Not like bougie stuff, but just like expensive things, have them take them shopping and stuff. And I'm like, Grandma, what are you doing? To the point where like at one point I was mad at my grandma because she'd be like, they're like my granddaughters here. And I'm like, no, they're not.
Right. No.
Like, no, absolutely not. So I grew that like, I don't like you just from that, you know? So we saw them at the cafe because the cafe is right below the church. And let me picture it. It's like my grandmother's house, the cafe, the church, and the cemetery's behind the backyard.
So everything's pretty close.
Everything's really close, like walking distance. So we're at the cafe, you know, we're having coffee in the morning. Like we're waiting for the funeral director to let us know like the coffins are in there. And they let us know and we're just like, okay, like we're finishing up. We'll be there in like a second. These 3 ladies think that they're like primary family. They end up going inside before us. And I lost my shit. I walked in that church and they're over here like hovering on the coffins. And I think I blacked out in that moment because I was like, yeah, you guys need to get the fuck out of this church. Like, they're not your family. I'm so sorry. Like, second, third, whatever. You weren't raised by them. Like, you just met them like 2 years ago. There should be no reason why you felt the need to like lack respect for us and think that you guys got like first dibs on like seeing them. Like, that's so disrespectful. Whatever, they ended up like catching a fit with me, but they got out the church, you know. And I'll never forget like walking into that church and seeing like coffins side to side. It was just traumatizing. Like I could not cry. Like I couldn't cry. I think it's because everyone else that I was with was crying. It's kind of like I just kind of like blocked out my feelings in that moment, you know.
Yeah. And
seeing my dad, like my dad is like breaking down on top of my grandmother's coffin. My uncle's on my grandfather. And I'm just like, fuck. Like,
it's a lot.
This is like real fucking life right now. Because I think before the funeral happened, I think I was like denying it. Like, I was like, no, they're going to come back. But really seeing them, like, in their coffins, I was like, holy shit. Like, this isn't like a dream. It's not a nightmare. Like, it's not fake. This is, like, real life. And just hearing them cry, it's like, you know, when people say, like, the scream of, like, a mother when their child dies, the scream of my dad and my uncle at that funeral is, like, embedded into my brain. Like, it was just so bad. And I remember the coffins, they're not open because they don't really do a good job with embalming in Portugal. So it's like a glass. So you see them through the glass type of thing. You can't touch them. And I remember I went to go look at my grandfather first. He looked so peaceful. Like, so peaceful. I was like, and I'm the one that picked their clothes out too. So I was proud. I was like, okay, like, I bought him this button-up shirt. Like, he looks good. You know, he looks very much at peace. When I went and saw my grandma, I'm not even kidding. She looked so upset. Like, not, obviously, like, a dead person isn't going to look happy, but she did not look like she was at peace.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, her face had swollen up, and I think it's due to, like, how she died, like, post-mortem, like, I guess all the fluids. I don't know, but she just did not look like herself, like, at all. It was so bad. That, like, shook me. Yeah. Like, I was like, I actually got scared. Like,
it's hard to see your loved one like that because it's them, but it's not.
Right.
Like, at all. It's, like, very uncomfortable. It's weird. It's a very weird
It's
thing.
weird. And it's like, I've been to 100, like, not even hundreds, but I've been to a lot of funerals in my time, you know? So I know what a dead person looks like. I know what to expect, but I've never seen anybody in the condition my grandmother was in. Like, you know, I know that they, like, fix your lips to make you, but she was frowning, like, completely frowning. And I remember looking at my sisters and I was like, no, grandma does not look happy at all. You know, like, that, they didn't even bother to fix her face, which pissed me off because it's just like, come on, I supplied you guys with everything. Like, I gave you the outfit. I brought you her nail polish. Like, you guys could have, like, made her look good, you know? But, you know, it's the afterlife. I mean, but I know she, like, me and my sisters, we all have, like, dark humor, but we were just like, grandma would have fucking killed somebody if she's, like, if she knew that people saw her in that condition. Right. You know? But, I mean, it is what it is. During the funeral, I ended up doing the eulogy, which is apparently not a thing in Portugal. I didn't know this. I did it for my own peace of mind. And I remember when I was doing it, I was watching like, it's like random people in that church, like people from the village. I don't know anybody. I just know my family and my dad's friends who flew purposely to support him, which they're real ones, love them to death. But everyone else in that church, I didn't know a single person. I'm just like, who are these people? You know? So during the eulogy, I'm like scanning through everybody because I'm just like, no, something's wrong. Like, someone in here knows something, you know? And even when, like, everybody was like going, you know, when, like, you go to the coffin, you give your condolences or whatever, I was watching every single person, right? And I'm like, okay. So I had like an image of everybody that I had saw in the church. And, you know, the funeral wraps up. We end up walking the coffins to the cemetery. And we're walking and I'm still just eyeballing everybody because, like, I'm scanning on, like, who's going to be pointed out to me, you know? And we get to the point where we're putting the coffins in the ground. And my dad couldn't watch it. Like, he was just like, I can't do it. My uncle watched my grandmother go in and then was like, I can't see the rest because she went in first. And so after I made sure they were, like, fitted correctly, because they went right on top of each other, which is, like, weird. I know they're going to crush each other, but, you know, dark humor. But after I knew that they were, like, set in stone, I looked at my sisters. I was like, I'm going to go find dad. And right across the cemetery, it's like a little chapel. And I saw my dad, like, just around the corner, like, hidden. I was like, okay, that's where he is. He's probably hiding. So I went up to him and I'm hugging him and, you know, he's breaking down. He's like, I can't believe, you know, this is what we did today, you know? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like, it fucking sucks. And he's over here smoking a cigarette. At this point, we're just, like, looking at each other. And this lady that I did not see the whole day comes around the chapel. And she's, like, my height, petite. And she's like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I looked at her. And I looked at my dad. I was like, excuse me? I was like, Dad, who the fuck is this? She was like, yeah, I'm talking to you. She was like, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, who are you? And at that time, I had made a GoFundMe to like support my family during that time. It wasn't even for that much. It was just for like necessities that we needed to get done. She was just like, you should be ashamed that you guys are asking for money when you know your grandparents had money. And I looked at her and I was like, excuse me, how do you know they have money when we don't? Because one thing about them, they were very secretive about their money. Nobody knew, not even us, like, especially my grandfather, very private with his money. And she's like rambling. At this point, I blacked out because I wanted to kill her. Because I just buried my grandparents not even like 10 minutes ago, and you're in my face calling us basically a disgrace.
Yeah.
And she's like talking her shit. I remember just looking at her and plotting what I was going to do to her. And it got to the point where she looked at my dad and she was like, yeah, and I was more of a daughter to your parents than you were a son. And I looked at my dad and it's like we both like clicked and we started chasing her. And I was going crazy. I was calling her all the names in the book in Portuguese and like asking all these like older women. I'm like, who is she? Like, who is she? Like, where did she come from? Clearly she was not at the funeral because she looked like she just finished gardening at her house. Okay. Full of dirt.
Was she like middle-aged?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not like old like my grandparents, but definitely like around my dad's age, like 40, 50s.
And if she was such a child to them, how is it that none of you have seen or heard
Exactly.
who she is?
And nobody in the community, like in the village, know who you are.
Yeah.
Because I asked everybody, like, you know, all these older women, obviously they would go to church with my grandmother. And I'm just like, does anybody know who she is? And everyone's like, Tatiana, we don't know who she is. And I'm like, so who the fuck is she? Like, why does she think that that was okay? So I end up blacking out maybe like 20 minutes. I'm just going crazy at this point. She ends up getting to her car before we could reach her because one of my dad's cousins like restrained him. Another one grabbed me, preventing us from getting to her. And then I'm just like yelling for like 20 minutes, just going crazy. And so then it gets to the point where we're just like, okay, like my dad's friends end up calming me down. They're like, Tatiana, just let it go. Like, we're going to go get lunch. Let it go. So we all end up going to lunch. And it's so funny. I have to put this in because I just believe that it was like my grandma's doing. My dad ends up riding with one of his friends. My dad's like, Tatiana, you take the car, you drive your sisters down. And I'm like, okay. So me and my sister stayed back a little bit. Like, I have to really decompress before I sit at a table with people. So I was like, okay, like, let's just sit in the car for a little bit. You know, the car was on. The thing is, my dad took the key with him. And it's pouring rain. Nobody's answering their phones. And I'm just like, no. And my sister's like, yeah, that's grandma doing that. She's telling you to calm the fuck down. Because I was on go time. Like, all I was seeing was red at that moment. And it was so funny. We ended up getting to lunch. And everybody's just like, Tati, like, what happened? Because a lot of people were confused. Because nobody saw that interaction. It was like there were so many people there, but nobody saw us talking to her. So it was like, is this bitch a ghost?
Yeah.
Like, I can't be that crazy. I can't be losing my mind that much, you know? And everyone, my dad's cousin Isaac, who's the EMT, you know, he knows everybody because he's always like helping people. He's just like, Tatiana, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, so where the fuck did she come from?
Did she give you her name?
No, nothing. Okay. Just came over there to talk her shit and ran. And I'm just like, okay, days go by and I'm on the hunt for her. Like, I'm walking around this neighborhood, don't even know where I'm going at this point, just walking around looking for her.
Hoping she pops out somewhere.
I need to find her because clearly you're going to be around. Could not find her. And, you know, the days go by and my sisters and not even my uncle, because my uncle he ended up staying a week. He left his green card here. So that's a whole different story. But he ended up staying a week with us. My sisters ended up leaving. And my dad ends up like going to the detectives again to like get more information. They're still like, yeah, we don't have anything for you. And it's just like, bro, it's been like 2 weeks. Like, come on, you know, like 2-3 weeks and still nothing. No, you just have to wait for the autopsy results. And we're like, okay, how long is that going to take? I don't know, 3, 4, 6, maybe 8 months, maybe a year. And me, my dad, and my uncle are looking at them like, what? You guys don't have any like sense of urgency? Like, how does that work? Oh, we took samples and then, you know, like the samples will be tested with time.
Do you know how long autopsies usually take?
Here? Like 3 weeks.
Okay.
But they keep the body while they're doing the autopsy though. Do they not? I think they do.
I think so.
Yeah. I don't think the body gets released until the autopsy is completed. Sometimes it's even less than 3 weeks. But, you know, me knowing that here and then over there, them telling me nearly a fucking year, I'm just like, what? Like, something's weird, right? So I'm like, okay, nothing's adding up. Like, I'm just on like detective mode. Like, I'm like, okay, this lady came up to me. Mark is weird. Like, I'm trying to add all the dots together. And I'm just like, okay, what is weird about this, right? So I end up meeting with a whole bunch of my dad's other cousins, right? And I'm telling them this, and them I'm really close. I'm closer with. They're like mostly women, so it's like I have more like connection with them.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them like what I'm thinking. And the thing that stood out to me is, okay, Mark had the keys, right? They drank a glass of wine. They got up out of bed and they were sick. The only thing that possibly makes sense is being poisoned.
That's what I was thinking too.
The only thing that makes sense. And the fact that the cops are sitting here saying there was no forced entry, well, duh, Mark had keys to the house. So what I'm assuming is that Mark probably went over that night, Sunday night, and was like, hey, like, aunt, uncle, like, I have a bottle of wine. My grandparents loved wine. Easy enough. Probably put something in that bottle. He probably didn't drink that night. Had them drink it. Was like, okay, like, I'm gonna head home. Went home. And I'm assuming they, like, went to bed and they woke up God knows what time. Felt bad. And you know what they say? Like, some poisons, like, when I did my research on this, I went down a rabbit hole with my sisters. When two people consume the same amount of poison at the same time, one person ends up lasting just a little bit longer than the other. If that makes sense. Like, depending on, like, your immune system and how your body works. And we all, like, sat down and talked about it. And we were just like, we all believe that my grandfather felt sick first. And my grandmother was probably like, okay.
Yeah, he probably, because he was the one that it was going through.
Right.
Yeah.
He was going through it. And we were just like, okay, like, he probably felt bad first. And then my grandmother probably had gone up. And this is one thing that we didn't notice until, I mean, I noticed when I found it. I had found their phones. But I didn't, like, until the third week, I didn't really touch their phones. I don't know why. It just never clicked. My grandmother had a flip phone, and my grandpa had an iPhone, the one that we had bought him. The flip phone, no SIM card in it. And my grandfather's iPhone has a 6-digit passcode that I cannot get into to save my life. I think I've locked it out for, like, 1,000 hours because every time I get that it unlocks, I, like, try again.
And it adds to the time.
It just adds to the count. So I've given up. But it's like he wasn't tech savvy. Like, there's no way he could learn how to put a passcode on a phone. At all. Nor did he want one. All he knew how to do on that iPhone was FaceTime, take a picture, and the call, like, to call people. That's all he knew how to do. He didn't even know how to text. So how could he possibly put a password on his phone? And why isn't there no SIM card in my grandmother's flip phone? So my theory is she probably got up, went to try and call for help, and then she was like, okay, like, the fuck is going on with the phone? So she probably went to her closet. She ended up dying with one of her favorite jackets next to her. And it's like this jacket that she even wore here. So when I heard that she grabbed that sweater, I lost it. Because I was like, oh my God, like, that was her go-to little cardigan. And that's how I knew. I was like, yeah, she definitely was trying to run out and get help. Because the way she was at, it's like she was trying to leave the closet and she just collapsed. Yeah. And that's right by the door. Like, literally, like, rooms are here, doors are here. Like, not even that, maybe like 4 steps. And she just never made it out the closet.
So, possibly, it would be that, these people, Mark, maybe this other woman, maybe, found out that your grandparents had money. And I guess my confusion is, why would they be going to the bank? Like, and announce it? Like, how would they, like, I wonder what made your grandparents
say that.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And I asked Amelia, I was like, did you ever see them leave though? She was like, Tati, no, because I was like, she lives in the basement of her house. So she was like, I can't see anything from, like, where I live in my house. She was like, so I didn't really notice if they left or not.
It's just so weird that I feel like your grandma would say, I mean, and I've heard stories where sometimes people just say that because they just happen to say it. They get the urge to, and it's like in your mind or spirit, you kind of know your time's coming, even if she didn't actually have a reason to say that. But it is weird, like, if, like, to announce the bank thing and then that, especially if they never
I definitely
usually did.
think that they were threatened in some kind of way, because turns out that lady, so I found this out months after I was back home.
Mm-hmm.
The lady that came up to us at the cemetery, she's the head of the police station. Yeah, and my grandparents are buried right next to her dead husband.
So how did you find that out?
So Isaac ended up investigating because he remembered her face.
Okay.
And he was like, no, I have to find out who she is. But she's like so deep into her office that nobody really knows who she is unless you like really work for the like that police department or whatever. And he was like, no, like I had to find out. And I ended up finding out who she was. And I was like, and she lives down the street. And I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
And guess who she's besties with? Mark. They're close friends. And I was like, oh, isn't that ironic? That's why he never got interrogated, because they would refuse to interrogate him. They would say that they had no reason. One of the last times they tried to go up to him and ask him, like, hey, can we just question you? Like, and he's like, I'm not a part of that family. But when they first died, you were over here, like, telling everybody, my uncle, my aunt, like, my uncle, my aunt. And now you're not family, you know? And, of course, they're not going to bug him about it. They just kind of let him go.
Right.
I'm just like, okay, whatever. I guess. You know, there's only so much we can do, you know, because we don't really know the laws out there as well as they do.
It's just so different.
You know?
And did you ever figure out about the food?
Nope.
Like, why would someone steal food?
So here's something we ended up learning, and I ended up going back to Portugal this past September. And we had visited my grandmother's best friend who, like, she lives in America. Like, she does 6 months here, 6 months there. So we ended up going to see her for the first time. And she told my dad, she was like, you know, your mom had a backpack of $50,000 in it, right? In the house. Like, she had showed me maybe like 2-3 weeks before she died. My dad's like, what the hell are you talking about? And she told me it was a purple backpack. And that is one thing till this day I cannot find. And I know that purple backpack because my grandma used it when she lived here. Like, it was her go-to bag. She was never going to throw that bag away. Okay. That's one thing I could never find in that house. And I'm like, okay, so the food's gone. This backpack of $50,000 is gone. Okay. Like, what other motivation would it be? So then I started like putting 2 and 2 together. I was like, well, Mark is relatively poor. He's not even poor. He's a server. He works in a restaurant. He makes good money. But his house is like all stone, like very low class. You know what I mean? Doesn't really have much to himself. But it's kind of just like, okay, was that his motive? To steal from them? As if he couldn't ask? Because they would have gave it to him. You know what I mean? And, you know, we're like putting all these like theories together. And at this point in Portugal, like the bank accounts, they like automatically, the government locks them when somebody dies, right? Unless somebody's like name is on the actual account. My dad's was not on the account. So we find out months later that Mark's name is on the account. And he never once mentioned it to my dad.
That's so weird.
Never brought it up. And so my dad, how did he find out? I think my dad ended up getting a letter in the mail.
So did Mark get money from them?
We have no clue. So there's still the bank account that has his name on it. I think there's 2 accounts. One account, my dad went to his house, picked him up, and was like, you're going to go with me to the bank and give me this money. Because of all the things that we have to pay. We had to pay for the headstone, like, you know, the burial site, you know what I mean? And it was so last minute. Nobody's prepared to bury 2 people, realistically, you know? So my dad ends up taking him against his will and, like, you know, gets that figured out. But turns out there's a whole different account now. It's like the more time goes by, the more things, like, start showing up.
Right.
It's just really weird. And he still, till this day, will not talk to us. And it's just like, okay, like, I guess, you know what I mean? It's because everyone assumes that it was you. You know? Only a guilty person would cut themselves off from the family for no reason after a funeral. I'm so sorry. Like, what else is new?
And there's no way that they both, like, it's so obvious how they died was so sudden.
Yeah, and they were healthy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And honestly.
And they were clearly both sick. Like, something happened in that moment.
Something definitely triggered it. And it's so crazy because my grandparents, they weren't ready to die. Like, they were full of life. Like, there was no way. You know what I mean? And it's just like, if they were old, like, if they were a little bit older and they were sick, you know, maybe we would have different thoughts. But they were full of life.
And especially to die at the same time.
And especially to say to Amelia the day before, like the last time you're seen, like take care of my dogs.
Right.
Like obviously, like I knew my grandma knew something. I don't think the thing that we will never know is if were they threatened.
Yeah.
Like, were they getting blackmailed by somebody? You know what I mean? Like, those are questions that run through, like, my head. I know they run through my family's head all the time.
Right.
Like,
It's almost like if they were poisoned, that would be the most simple answer.
It's the easiest way.
Yeah, that's like, to me, that's like the very simple answer to it. But like, yeah, that's a good point too. Like, especially with the comments that they made, it's like, who knows if they were being threatened or blackmailed.
So then we got the autopsy results.
And that was recently, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm reading them. Mind you, they're not in English. So, like, I have to translate some words because big words, like, in Portuguese, I can make work with what I can read.
Yeah.
But, like, big medical words, I can't make it work. So I end up translating it. And I'm going through this autopsy, and I'm just like, okay, it looks like they measured everything and weighed every organ. But, like, did they do a toxicology report? No. Did they, like, test their blood, like, you know, matters of, like, you know, their brain, like, you know, under the fingernails can always, like, there's a certain poison. I forgot what poison it is, but it's only detected in your fingernails. Mm-hmm. They didn't do a thorough autopsy. It was kind of like they cut them open, they took their organs out, weighed them, looked at the color, and then put them right back. And that was it. And then
so
on
they
the
didn't
bottom,
actually test for anything.
No. And then on the bottom it says it was, I think they had put like 20 or 30% carbon monoxide. And they were like, then it's another bulletin point. And it's like, the matter of death was a violent cause. And I'm just like, how does that make any fucking sense? Because again, carbon monoxide is a silent killer. You don't feel it happening, you know? So it's kind of just like what you put in your autopsy result in the report. Yeah. It's kind of like it was all just like fake. Like you just wrote whatever.
Were you able to question it at all or no?
No, so I haven't been back since. I'm going back this summer. Mm-hmm. And hopefully I can get some more information. But the way they just don't care about this case, I mean, yeah, my dad's even over it at this point. Like, you know, it's his parents, but he's just like, Tatiana, it's like, I'm not getting anywhere with this. Like, they will literally sit in your face and be like, we have better cases. Yeah. Or we already told you it's carbon monoxide, that's it. Like, right, like at this point, you guys don't have the resources to figure it out on your own.
If
If we were rich and we had like money, maybe then they would care. But because they see that we live an average life, you know what I mean? They're just like,
and like you said, probably because they were older. Mm-hmm. And if someone was involved that they know, then
it's like a whole little like mafia going on in there. Like there's definitely like dirty cops in there. Yeah, it's so bad. I'm just like, this is so ridiculous.
And you'll never have
that sense of like closure. Yeah. Yeah. And
like you can assume, but like who even actually knows?
And it's so crazy because I ended up, like I said, my mom's very big into like spirits. Mm-hmm. So we ended up going in September to a medium. And in Portugal, there's like mediums that like legit let the spirits, like, it's like an exorcism. Yeah. Okay. I thought we were going to like a medium like Teresa Caputo. Like she's just gonna, you know, this
right, give you.
They're
like
just gonna tell me what they're
yeah.
saying. Mind you, we were there. This medium only worked from like 3 a.m. until 9 a.m. Like you had to be waiting outside of his house, and you would pull a ticket. And whoever number was called is whose turn it was, because it's people from like Italy, France, like Greece, people that would come all the way down to see him, right? And I'm thinking, okay, like this guy got to be something big, like, you know, like. Right. I don't know what I'm expecting. I'm like sleep deprived. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We didn't get called till 8 a.m. Okay. We finally get called in.
So you just have to stand there and wait.
Yeah. Like you sit around like his patio. Like he's got like 5, 6 cats, like little black cats that walk around. Like, I mean, it makes sense. A witch has like all these cats, you know, they're so cute. So obviously it kept us like occupied and we're like talking to other people there. And nobody's really telling us how it's going to go down. I think my mom knew, but she didn't want to tell me. So we end up getting to the room and I'm over here like, okay, I'm going to like voice record it. I'm going to hide my phone. I couldn't, because then he was like, can I see a picture of your grandparents? Because, you know, my mom told him why we were there. And obviously I stopped it because I didn't want him to like, I don't know. I got like shy. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm just not going to record him because I don't want to go through that awkward confrontation. So we show him the picture and it's like instantly, I knew this is a grown man with a grown voice. Okay. Instantly, like he like snaps into something and he lays down in the exact position my grandmother was laid down in. and it's her exact voice coming out. Like, I felt so stuck to my seat. Like, her cry, I mean, everything was her voice. Like, I never thought I would hear that voice in front of me again. It was like
What did
mind-fucking.
he say? What did she say? He say?
Yeah, whatever it was. The voice, it was crying, and it was just like, she was just like, Mark did it.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, and me and my mom's like getting up. She's like getting up from the chair and like, you know, because she's asking to hold her hand, and my mom's like, Tatiana, go. And I'm like, no. Like, my body could not move. Like, I could not move. So my mom's like holding her hand, and she's like, he came over and he gave us a drink and we felt bad. So that's what had happened. And my mom's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. And he stole from the house. And
did you guys tell the psychic person?
No, nothing.
So he didn't know anything about
And he's
Mark.
not even from our town. So the way the news reports work, it goes by towns. He's like 3 hours away from our town.
And you guys only showed him a picture.
Yeah, just a picture of them.
And did he use the Mark person's name?
Yeah. Like, to the T. And I was just like, what? When the voice was saying that, I'm not even kidding. Like, my mom's talking to her. And she's just like, no. And he stole from the house. Like, he stole my book bag and he stole stuff. My mom's like, what stuff? And then she just instantly starts crying. And is like, I'm so sorry. Like, tell my son I'm sorry. Like, talking about my dad. She was like, tell him I'm sorry. And it's just like crying. And I'm like sitting there shitless. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't even think I was blinking.
That's crazy.
And my mom's like talking to her, and she's in Portugal. Like, what they do, like, you know how like in Mexico, they like go and like when you make a prayer to God, a promise, and they go and like they go on their knees.
Yeah.
So in Portugal, we kind of have that, but like you can offer something to a certain like saint or whatever. And my mom was like, technically in our we're Catholic. So technically, like when you make a promise, if it's not fulfilled before you're dead, you technically don't get to rest peacefully until it's completed.
Okay.
So what you can do, I guess through the spirits, whatever, she basically told my mom what promises she had left to complete. So that's how that conversation ended. And he just snapped right back into himself.
Now, does he remember what happened?
No. Because he looked at me and he was like, what just happened? He was like, are you okay? Because I guess my face said it all.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Is that normally how it happens? Like these people come through him?
Yeah, apparently, yeah. Because then I asked people outside, I was like, is this like what it is?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's what he's known for. Apparently he's been doing it since he was a kid. Like, he's just very like opened into spirits where he can like look at a picture and he can allow that spirit into him.
And I'm sure it makes a difference if they really have some things they need to say.
Yeah. I'm not even kidding. It was the most craziest things I've ever experienced in my life. I like till this day, I'm like shooketh. Like, I even talking about it, I get like stuck.
Yeah.
And my mom's just like, yeah. She's like, I'm going to kill that motherfucker. Like, talking about Mark.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, I told you.
That was when?
That was in September
okay.
because my mom had finally went with us. And my mom was just like, because my dad's not very big into spirits. Like, I guess now he is after we told him, because he stayed outside. But like years ago when we used to go, when my mom would talk to her dad, my dad would laugh. He thinks it's funny. Like, he's just like, there's no way this is like real life. It's fake, you know? But once we told my dad, like word for word what was said, he was just like, oh no.
So after that, did you guys try to contact Mark? And nothing.
So we ended up trying to find him. We even like pulled up to his house, couldn't find him. And we asked like everybody in the village, like, hey, is he working today? Like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we haven't really seen him around. And we're just like, okay, because he knows we're here. We were there for 2 weeks. Like, obviously he knows we're here, so he's avoiding us. We haven't seen him since until the last day. I left October 3rd and my parents left the 4th. So I left by myself. On the 2nd, I told my mom, I was like, you know, before I leave, I want to go pass by the gravesite, say my goodbyes to my grandparents, and like say goodbye to the dogs, because the dogs are still in the home. They protect the home right now. And we're at the cafe, like having a drink. And long and behold, who shows up? Mark. And mind you, I haven't seen him since February, March of earlier that year. And I don't know what took over me, but it literally felt like something was squeezing me to get out of there. Like just a really bad feeling. Yeah. But it literally felt like somebody was like squeezing my arms together. And I looked at my dad and I was like, no, we have to go. Mind you, this is the day after that whole medium stuff. So my dad was like, no, we have to leave. And the way he was like looking at my dad, like he's at a table and he's just like looking at my dad, like it was just very.
Because it's probably one of those things that if all of that is the truth, he probably, like he knows, but he probably knows that you guys will never be able to prove it.
Yeah. He knows he'll get away with it.
Yeah. Because like if they didn't do the autopsy, there is no proof.
Exactly.
Like they would have had to say, oh, they were poisoned, which like to me, that was like my first thought as well. Cause like what else? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and like you said, with the carbon monoxide, it's like they would have not been.
They wouldn't have never gotten out of bed. Yeah. And the fact that they had full range to move that far,
right,
like from their bedroom all the way to the other side of the house, you wouldn't do that with carbon monoxide.
I'm just surprised that if he poisoned them with the wine, that it was left there.
So the wine bottle was not.
So only the glass was.
Just the glass was.
Okay.
But they didn't sample anything.
Right.
And that's one thing that I kept bringing up to them every time we went to the police station. I'm like, you guys didn't even take samples of anything. So then we end up finding out in September, we went back and we questioned them again. We were just like, have you guys found out anything? Because we didn't have the autopsy yet.
Yeah.
And they were just like, no, the case is closed. And I'm like, okay, who were the detectives on there? And they were like, oh, actually, there's a new set of detectives because the detectives that went initially, they were trainees. And they got moved to the Capitol. So that's why it makes sense. Because they were trainees, they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why nothing was properly investigated because, again, they had no experience. They were just like, okay, it's carbon monoxide. Let's move on. Let's go into something that's more like interesting, like a murder or whatever. You know, those kind of murders that are like bloody and, I mean,
right.
You know, something more intriguing. They're newbies.
Right.
You know? And my dad was just like, that's ridiculous. Like, so basically it's kind of like, fuck my parents. Like,
yeah,
they're nobody. And they were just like, well, we can't reopen it.
And it sucks too because like I get it from your dad's perspective. It's like at this point it's just easier to let it go.
Yeah.
And it's like even if you had all the answers, what does it really do?
Right.
You know, it won't bring them back.
It won't.
But it is really unfortunate that it wasn't taken as seriously. And it's interesting too because I do think like obviously over there it is a lot different than here. But at the same time, I feel like you never know how, you know, law enforcement is going to treat a case. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes they take it really seriously.
And sometimes
they don't. Especially, it depends, too, I feel like, how much traction it gets.
Yeah.
Because then it's like they kind of have no choice to because people know about it. Right. But it's almost like if they're able to not have to deal with something, why would they?
Right. It was just one last case that they were just like,
Yeah. So for you, this all happened, like a year ago?
Okay. Last year.
So do you feel like you have closure or no?
No, I don't even think, truthfully, not that I haven't began grieving.
Yeah.
But I feel like I haven't really opened that door to fully like feel the feelings just because I'm one of those like people that like, I suffer in silence. I don't ever like, I'm really bad at asking for help. Like, and if I do, it's like, little shit, not like deep things like this, you know? I don't know. I don't think I've begun. And to top it off, I think the first time that I cried after they died, my mom's mom ended up passing 4 months later. So, but she was sick. Yeah. But I think when she died was probably the first time that I had cried about all three of them together.
Right.
You know, I think it just like opened up that Band-Aid and like I felt it for the first time and then I put a Band-Aid over it and it's like it comes and goes. Like there's times where I'm in the car and I'm like, fuck man, like
it's sad, right?
That's so bad. Like what the hell? Like there's no way. Cause I would have never in a million years thought this would happen to me and my family, you know?
Yeah.
Like you see it in documentaries. Like I'm a crime junkie. I see it on documentaries all the time. I'm like, that's crazy, you know?
And probably in a way too, I feel like it's easier to cope with it when you can kind of dive into it and look at it from that crime junkie perspective. Yeah. Like you can almost like want to investigate it and figure out like, well, did this happen? Did that happen? And I feel like it allows you to put that Band-Aid on and not feel it as much, you know?
I think that's what I did. Like I'm more investing. Like like till this day, I feel like I can solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like the more times I go, I'm gonna get more like answers.
Yeah.
You know? And I know like my dad's over it. Like you talk to him about it and he's just like, he's like, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think everyone is at least at peace that they went together. Cause honestly, they would not have survived without each other. Like there's no way. They were together since they were like 15, 14 years old, you know? So that brings us some peace. That's the only thing that really like keeps me sane is like, okay, they went together. They're not suffering from each other's loss.
It's just unfair because there's no justice around
There's
it.
no justice and there's no direct answer. Like it's kind of like you wake up I wake up every day wondering like, what if there was something that could have prevented that? Like, or, you know, what if they were here and that didn't happen? You know what I mean? But my mom lives by this rule that like, you know, God knows your birth date and he knows your death date and nothing is going to get in the way with either one of those, you know? And that's how we live in my house. Yeah. So my mom's like, you have to stop questioning it. And I'm like, I can't. Like,
I think it's hard too because there are just so many questions surrounding it. Like if you really thought about it, it's like you could drive yourself crazy.
No,
like,
yeah.
With the food, with the bank, with the comments.
I think
like,
I drove myself
weird.
so crazy. Like the first 2 weeks that I was there, before my sisters got there, they made me a little bit more like
sane.
Yeah, more sane. Just because I had somebody to talk to that was like that could understand me. Like obviously, I'm not gonna vent to my dad because my dad's going through it, you know. But before my sisters got there, I think I was like losing my shit. Like looking back at it, I was going crazy. Just like
I'm sure
in my mind, like I was not sleeping. Like there would be nights that I'd wake up. It's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like me and my dad at that point were sharing a room, and I would look at his bed and he's like peacefully sleeping, and I'm like, damn, I can't sleep, and I was just not sleeping.
Right.
Like I would just like sit on the little balcony that we had, and I would just be contemplating everything that could have happened. Like, what if they didn't drink this? Or like, you know, where did that wine come from? Where was it bought? What kind of poison could it have been? I was doing so much research at one point that like my brain literally felt fried. Yeah. And I was like, no, I have to stop.
Right. Because it's like you're going to just drive yourself crazy.
No, And then when my sisters got there, it was like word vomit. Like I could not stop talking because I was like, I have to get this all out of my brain because it's driving me nuts. And they were like, what the fuck?
Well, I think too, you know, like I mentioned before, seeing the scene and knowing like where they passed away and how it wasn't necessarily peaceful, that on its own is traumatizing.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we always necessarily like realize how much things like that stick with us. Like you know, like you can be strong in moments like that, like which obviously like you very much were. Like your dad didn't want to go in, you did, you handled it, whatever. But like I don't think we realize how much stuff like that like really gets embedded in our brains. And
it changed me.
Yeah. 100%. It definitely does something.
Like I'm 100% not the same person I was before this. Like before I was like carefree.
Right. Like nonchalant.
Right. And now I'm just like, no, like real life will fucking hit you. Like it's nobody's business. Like there's no mercy when life hits you. Like I've definitely learned that. And it made me grow up even more. Because I was like, damn, like life could really be gone within a second. Like you never know what's going to happen. And I'm always on my P's and Q's with who I'm around. Because especially my family, like I'm very overprotective over my family now to where like my parents are so over it. But like whenever they're not home, I'm like, where are you? What are you doing? Like, who are you with? Like, what time are you going to be home? Like, I need to know everything now. Because it's just like, granted, you know, I didn't get to speak to my grandparents the last time. Obviously, like, you know, maybe the way me and my grandmother were close, maybe I could have picked up something from her. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. My grandmother with me, we were very close. Like, that was my girl. Like, I could get a lot of things out of her because I could tell her. I was the one that, like, could tell when she was hiding something. I feel like maybe she would have opened up about maybe an issue she was having. Yeah. She obviously had to know something. Something had to be leading up to that point. And she hated him, mind you. Yeah. Mark. So, and my grandma was very, what is it? Intuitious? Like when you have like
she had strong intuition.
Yeah. So she always knew when something was wrong, you know? So I don't know. The world may never know, you know? Yeah. It's crazy.
That's wild. So you go back this summer?
I go back this summer.
Are you going by yourself or with...
No, I'm going with my whole family.
Okay. So the whole family will be there. How long are you going for?
We're going to go for 2.5 weeks.
And are you going to, is the house in your dad's name now?
Yeah, so my dad's actually in the process of selling it. Because my dad, I mean, none of us want to, we can't sleep in there. Like you walk in there and it's like the first thing you think of. Like,
and like you said, it's like, I feel like in general, like it's cold. Like you just don't want to.
If I could, I would keep the house just because it's like my grandmother's dogs are still there. They're the cutest things. I love them. They're like little humans.
So is the neighbor going to take them?
So how we have the house set up right now is she has the keys to the house. She has the garden. I mean, my grandparents' garden was like filled with everything. I'm not even kidding. Like avocados bigger than my head.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, so my dad was like, Amelia, the garden, all the fruits and veggies, they're yours. That's your garden. You were the one that was helping them with it. That's you. If you need anything from the house, whatever's in there, you can have. And the dogs. And Amelia's like, I'm keeping them. But as of right now, they stay at the house to protect the house. Yeah. You know, they alert when somebody's near the house. But we're selling the house because my dad's like, I can't keep it. We're probably, it's breaking my heart, but my dad's like, Amelia can't have the dogs at her house because her dog is he's an ass. Like, he does not do good with other dogs. So now when I go in August, I have to find somebody who I trust with these dogs. I would bring them here, but it is way too much money to bring all three of them here. Yeah. You know? And I wouldn't want to do that. They're so used to the open lifestyle that they just wouldn't do good over here. And I can't separate them because they're like three peas in a pod.
Right. Exactly. You know? They're used to having each other.
Yeah. And they go like, and it's so cute when before the funeral, they ended up escaping and like they ended up going to the cemetery and they found the hole. Stop. They sat there and my uncle found them. They ended up coming back home. After they were buried, they escaped again and they went to the funeral. They went to the cemetery. They know where they are.
They do, yeah.
And they go, and Amelia tells me that they leave every day now. They go to the cemetery, they'll hang out there and they'll come back when they're ready. She doesn't press them out. Yeah. So they're close. So it's like, how can I move them away from that?
No, you can't.
And
something will work out with that. You'll figure it out.
Oh, you know what I'm remembering? One of the dogs, his name is Bobby. All these dogs are super friendly, right? And during the time that I was going through the house, Bobby, mind you, even if I were to bring you, the dogs would not bark at you. Yeah. They're like your puppy. Super loving. But whenever Bobby would see Mark, I'm not even kidding, like he would start and then the two other dogs would start foaming, growling out their mouths like they wanted to kill him. But they won't because they're too friendly. Right. You know what I mean?
But they just know.
That was an instant. And that's something that still till this day does not sit right with me. Like Amelia even told me the other day that he like passed by the house and just even walking in front of the house, they lose their shit.
That is crazy.
And I'm so sorry. Dogs have a really good intuition.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
Know something. And that's one reason why I want to keep them at the house because it's like, don't go near there. You know, there's been times, not too long ago. It was actually a few weeks ago. Amelia talks to my dad regularly now. Like she basically took over Sundays. Like we call her every Sunday.
That's sweet.
And she actually called my dad a few Sundays ago and she was just like, why did I find Mark trying to shove his old key into the keyhole of the house? And my dad's like, for what? Apparently he like still claims that this is his house. And it's like, boy, it's for sale. Like, it's not your
why
house.
would you even want it? That's so weird.
He's so weird till this day. And it's just like, just give it up. Okay? Like, whatever you did, you did. Right. Whatever you took,
just stay away at this point.
Just stay away at this point. Because it's like, really, like, what are you after? The house at this point is empty.
Okay, I was going to say, unless for some reason they think there's still more stuff in there.
No, we emptied out. My dad had went just like a month or two ago, and he emptied out the whole house. He, like, donated everything. Like, I don't even know. He just gave
why even go
away.
over there?
Yeah, there's nothing in there. So it's like, why are you still going over there?
So weird.
That's crazy. Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, I'm glad that you came on here and gave us your detective story. No, that's crazy.
It is.
But it's also heartbreaking because
it's really heartbreaking, and it took a lot of people by shock. I mean, my grandparents were really known in the Portuguese community down here and in their church. So when we announced it, everybody was like, what? Like,
it's like so shocking.
It shocked a lot of people. Like, and I'm honestly, I had good support. Like, there was people that I haven't talked to in years, and like the support that I got was very like warming, you know, even though I didn't reply to a lot of people because I just went MIA. Like, I lost myself. A lot. But I never realized, like, you know, I've lost people, but like family, I never knew how how much support could like really help. I think that's why I somewhat stayed sane.
Yeah.
But it ruined a lot of people. There was a lot of people that were really, really upset about it. And it's just like, it changed everybody. Even till this day, like, we go somewhere and, like, my dad's friends see him. They're just like, you know, like, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, any news? Like, everyone wants to know answers. And it's like, we don't have anything.
Well, it's
you know?
shocking for you guys, and it's heartbreaking to lose, like you said, like, no one expects to lose anyone, like, suddenly. But then both grandparents at once, and then on top of it, you get no answers and no sense of justice or closure. And then on top of it, it makes it so much more difficult that it's just in a different country. So it's like nearly impossible with the back and forth. And
it's
I
just
feel like
like
there's
someone
so much
giving you
lost.
a puzzle with no puzzle pieces, like with missing puzzle pieces. And it's just like, there's no end to it. It's just kind of like you're always
It's literally
just
like an unsolved mystery.
Like a cold case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm just numb to it. Like
it's almost like you have to be.
Yeah, I have to be because it's like I could like realistically like I have one of my friends is always just like, Tati, you know, like you really have to feel your grief. And it's like I can feel my grief, but I'm not going to, as much as I want to like put myself into my bed and not get up for a week, I can't do that. Life doesn't stop. Time doesn't stop. Bills don't stop. You know what I mean? Like you kind of just have to learn how to live with it. Yeah. Even though it sucks, but it's like, there's nothing else I can do. Nothing's going to bring them back.
Yeah. And I think that there's a way too to like accept it and everybody grieves so differently. Like some people, I mean, I'm that way too, where it's like either I'll cry as soon as I find something out for like a minute and then it stops. And then I'll also have these times where when I'm crying about something else, then I end up crying about the things that I should have grieved, you know, in that moment. And you know, everybody just handles that so differently. But at the same time, I feel like, too, there's a way to accept it, but then also become numb to it. Because if you don't, it's like you're just going to keep going in circles. There is no, like, cutoff with it.
I feel like grief just hits everybody so differently.
So differently.
So differently. Because it's like, I don't even know how my siblings are grieving. Like, you could never tell. Yeah. You can't tell between any of us, like, who is it really, like, hitting the hardest? You know, I think we're all just good at that. But it made me realize, like, damn, everyone really grieves differently. Yeah. Like, I thought we were, like, all just depressed. You know what I mean? Like, we'll just cry for a few days. No. Like, this was an eye-opener. Yeah. And now, like, you know, it's crazy because I think because I went through this trauma, I'm, like, awkward now when it comes to, like, people reaching out to me, like, when they've lost somebody. Because it's like, I don't even know how to deal with it. You know, I'm so bad at it now. Because at first, I used to be good at it. Like, I was like, you know, like, it's going to be all right, da-da-da. But now that I really face it, I was like, no, it's not going to be all right. Like, you're going to be wondering. You're going to be missing that person.
Yeah, and I think, too, because so many people handle it differently, it's like you don't really know what to do. It's like, I feel like it's almost like all you can do is just be like, I'm here for you, like, whatever, and in whatever way you need it. But it's
and
like,
honestly, that I'm here for you goes a long way.
Yeah. It goes a long way. But it's like you can't, there's like literally no fixing it. So it's almost like, you just have to tell somebody that and then kind of give them their space unless they want more than that, almost. But it's like, I was just talking about that, I think last week. Like, it can be very uncomfortable and like weird. Like, I don't think we're really meant to know how to
handle it.
Yeah, and how to help somebody that's going through it, because it's like you don't know what to do. There is no right answer. There's nothing that's going to make somebody feel better.
It's just a learning experience to each their own kind of thing. And it's crazy because it's like losing people in the past, I'm like, okay, like I know how I'm going to grieve, you know, like it's going to be sad. But now that it's like a death that I have no answers to, it's kind of like it's prolonged. Like it's kind of just like there's no closure. So I can't really ever get over it. You know? Yeah. Like, it's kind of like I'm always sitting there questioning myself, like, you know, like, how did this happen? Like, how could it have happened? You know? And at one point, I was, like, questioning God at one point because I was like, how did you let this happen to two people that followed you so closely? You know? And obviously, like, my mom knocked me out of questioning that. But it got me to that point, like, how is that fair? Yeah. You know? It's not like they were, like, bad people or whatever, like, they were ill. Like, they just didn't deserve to go out like that. Like, I think I would have been more at peace if they were sick or if, you know, if it was a car accident. Yeah. Like, something that, like, okay, I have an answer to.
Because with your mom's
mom's mom, she was sick.
And do you feel like you have complete closure with that?
I do. I saw her. So I had went to go see her when I was there in February, March, whenever week I went to go see her.
Oh, so she was over there too.
So she lives in Portugal. Yeah.
Okay,
but she lives 2 hours away.
Okay.
But I told my dad, I was like, look, let's take a break from being in your town.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go visit grandma. So seeing her, that was my last time seeing her. She was sick but she was like, oh my God, one of my sisters, she has really like dark jokes. And she was just like, bro, like grandma's like a cockroach that's never gonna die because she like had so many different cancers in her, and she's had cancer for like 7+ years.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
just keeps going.
Ever stopped her. Like she was still gardening, she was still like working out in her farm, like just was nonstop.
Yeah,
like nothing could stop her. And I'm like, grandma, you need to slow down. Like you need to relax. And she's like, no. Like,
why would I do that?
I'm by myself. I'm bored. Like I have to do something. And I'm like, okay, like, you know. When she died, I mean, I had spoken to her. My dad had went and saw her like 2 weeks before she died and had FaceTimed me. She was already in a home. They had at that point put her in a home. And I could tell I don't know if she was like actively having a stroke while I was on FaceTime with her, but I could definitely see her face just drop. And she looked like, from how I saw her like 4 months ago to that point, I was like, no, I was like, yeah, she, like, I already knew. After that call, I was like, she's gonna go.
Yeah.
And I had forced my mom to go when I was supposed to go with my dad. I think I was supposed to go meet up my dad. I can't even remember because my dad's gone like 10 times since all this has happened. I was supposed to go with my dad, and something in me made me make my mom go because my mom wasn't gonna go.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I think you need to go. You need to go see your mom. And she was like, no, like I'll see her in June. Like I'm going in June. And I was like, no, mom, you need to go now. You know? And this was, I'm getting my months mixed up. She was supposed to go see her in August. Yes. My grandma died in June. Okay. So she kept saying, I'm going to go see her in August. She'll be fine for 3 months. And this was early June. And I was like, no, mom, you need to go see her now. Like, I know she's not going to make it.
Yeah.
My mom ends up going. It was maybe like a week or two after. My dad's flight was supposed to leave the ending of June. And they had called. I'll never forget. It was the same type of phone call. I wasn't home. My dad calls me hyperventilating. And he's like, you need to come home. And I'm like, why? I was like, grandma died, didn't she? And he was like, yeah, she did. And I went and like seeing my mom, you know, my mom had already lost her dad. So, you know, she had already lost a parent. So she knew. But it was kind of just like an open Band-Aid, like, fuck. Like,
and it hurts seeing other people you love.
It is. It was like that day, I'll never forget. I had like went and locked myself in the bathroom and just like broke down. I think it was like all my grief at once. Like I was like, fuck, like this is really happening all over again. Like I can't even catch a break at this point, you know? But that was expected. So it didn't, I think I fully grieved her.
And you had an understanding of why.
I had an understanding.
How,
like I had closure. Like, you know, I knew it was coming. I at least got to say bye, you know? Like I feel good about her passing. Like, you know?
There's no confusion there.
There's no confusion there. But with my dad's parents, oh yeah, there's so much confusion. Like it's like, till this day, I don't want to accept it, you know?
It's scary too.
Yeah. Cause now it's like every time we go, like I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, like, are we a target? Like, you know what I mean? Cause they see us as the Americans who have money. It's like, we're not even rich, bro. We're middle class. Like, come on.
Right.
You know, but because we're Americans, they think that we have money and we have this and we have that. Like, no, it's not how it is. So every time we do go and we go to my dad's city, like I'm always on my P's and Q's because I'm just
you
like,
have to be, I
don't trust anybody, like at all.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's a scary world we live in.
It's crazy. And that's really like opened my eyes. Like at first, you know, I'm a people person. Like I love talking, and I used to bartend. So like I love meeting new people.
You're social, yeah.
But after this, I'm like, you can't be like that with everybody.
No.
You just never know, you know?
Yeah.
Like here in America, you'd be like, okay, like maybe like, you know, there's bad people. You probably get robbed or something, but not like family doing it to family.
No.
You know?
Right, people you're supposed to trust.
Like that is some wicked shit.
People don't care. They're selfish.
Clearly. And greedy.
Yes.
That's what I've learned. And I'm just like, it's so crazy
and
how
it's all over just
it could
piece
drive
of paper.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a piece
Crazy.
of paper.
It's really crazy to think about.
And it's not even like he couldn't ask for help.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good point too.
My
right?
grandmother was doing his laundry.
Yeah.
Like
Right, they
she
seem
was
like such
cleaning your
generous
dirty
people.
underwear. And
because that's too easy.
Yeah.
Like people don't want to.
Like instead of asking the two people that were like your only family that were legit helping you do your laundry, they would feed you. My grandma would cook you dinner and have you pick it up. Like, come on.
And you said she already didn't.
She did not like him. You know, like she always had a really bad feeling about him. But you know, she was like, "Well, that's my husband's nephew. Like, I can't not."
Yeah, they were just good people.
You know, exactly. But she definitely had her feelings about him. But it's just like you went and if he did do that. Okay, because I can't sit here and say he didn't. But, you know, obviously in my theory, he did it. You went and did that to the only two people that were helping you in life.
I think greed is spot on.
It took over, you know? And it's just like, it's ridiculous. Because as I'm looking, I ended up finding like my grandfather's checkbooks. He loved writing checks. Okay, he never did cash. He wanted receipts of everything. He was very OCD. He would give Mark like $1,000 here, $1,000 there, just like every few like 5-6 weeks, I guess, to just help him. And it's like, bro, like they were helping you financially too. Like you could have just asked for more if you really needed more, you know? It's so crazy.
That's
so
wild.
Crazy.
Well, you're a great storyteller.
I try.
I feel
like my ADD gets in the way and I'm like.
No, not literally not
really?
at all. Like it felt like I was, like you said, spot on watching a documentary. Yes. Like I'm over here like trying to think of theories.
No, it's so crazy. One thing I forgot.
Go ahead.
See, I'm telling you, it's like
you'll think of like little things,
and I'm like, damn, but they're like important. The first day my sisters were there. My grandfather OCD. I'm talking about like he would know if like my cup was like off center, like too much. In the living room, there was a dresser and it's like drawers of like folders of papers that go back to like the 1970s of every bill he's paid, newspapers that he like liked. Yeah. Like every single paper that had his or my grandmother's name on it, he kept. Dated in like whatever category it fell in, everything. And my grandparents ended up becoming US citizens when they were here. The only things that I could not find in the paperwork was the layout of the house, like the estimate, because my grandfather had apparently got the house like estimated. Yeah. Right? Because last time they were here, they had told my dad, like, you know, they told my dad and my uncle, like, you know, the day that we die, you know, everything is ready. Like the funeral's already paid for. Like you guys don't have to worry about the house. Like it's already like estimated. You don't have to pay for that. Like my grandfather was like, everything's done so that it's ready. So you guys don't have to have that stress. Yeah. You know? All that paperwork, that folder was empty. Their U.S. citizen, like, certificates. You know how you get, like, a little certificate? Yeah. Gone. Okay? Like, little important stuff like that were all gone. Yeah. So, like, God knows, like, if they did have a funeral paid, because we couldn't find what funeral home they used. Oh. You had to have paperwork, because no one does, like, in that village, no one does technology. It's all by paper. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's crazy. And so bizarre. Like the little things that are just missing. It's just why.
Yeah. For what?
Right.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
And it's like, I know there was a lot of empty folders. And it's like, my grandfather wasn't the type to have like an empty folder in the middle of like 20 folders. There were so many empty folders. And like, what could have possibly been in here that was important to take? Yeah. You know? And it's like, I'll never know because
you weren't going through the papers.
I wasn't going through them all the time, you know? And it's so funny because thinking about it now, I'm just remembering my mom. I remember when I was leaving, something in me made me take home to come back here. I think I took like 6 folders worth of papers that I mentally could not go through because it was just too many papers, okay? Yeah. Like it was an issue. Like talk about hoarder, okay? Right. So I was like, okay, something in me is telling me that there's something important in these papers. So I put them in my backpack. We came back home. Months later, my mom's going through them, right? She's better at reading than I am in Portuguese. And she had the paper stacked on the table. And she's like in the living room. I guess she went to go like get something from the cupboard or whatever. And she said that it felt like it looked like somebody just went on the papers and like smacked them to the floor. And in front of her, like, because as she was walking, like they're all in front of her was one paper that had the information of saying that Mark was an account holder on one of their bank accounts. And it's the certified copy, like the full stamped, like 3D stamped copy. And that's how my dad ended up finding out that he had an account. Like, he was on the accounts. It sounds like,
regardless of what happened in the end, it sounds like he, like, maneuvered his way into their lives. And, you know, you hear about that a lot of people manipulating older people.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And taking advantage of them.
Yeah. Like, even if, like, doesn't even matter how little or much money they had. I just think that if somebody, you know, doesn't have much for themselves, or they are selfish or greedy, and they see somebody that is super kind and generous and vulnerable, they will take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think is what happened. Like, they were just...
And like, eventually it probably just wasn't enough.
Yeah. My grandparents were just too nice. Like, I'm not even kidding. They were the type, like, if you were to walk in front of their house and you would say, like, you were hungry, my grandmother would, like, force you in and, like, feed you. Like, they just were that kind of people. And I definitely believe they were taken advantage of by him. Like, he probably just got too greedy. And knowing that he could get away with something like this because of who he knows in the inside, you know? Like, I do firmly believe that it was him. Like, I told my dad all the time, like, you cannot convince me it was not him. Like, I know that's your cousin.
Yeah.
But, like, my gut feeling every time I'm around this man is, like, it's bad. Like, it makes me sick. Like, I've never had that kind of gut feeling about anybody, you know?
Yeah, and the whole situation is so creepy.
Yeah.
And weird.
It's like, you stalked us for this long. What? Because you were afraid I was going to find something?
Yeah.
You know, when you really think back at it, it's because you probably think I'm going to find something that's going to connect me to you. That's why, you know. And God knows if he found something while I was busy, like, in the rooms.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's just like, when you really look back at it, it's just like, it gives me, like, you know the show You? It gives me that kind of vibe. Like, Joe Goldberg. Like, you're definitely, like, looking around to see, like, what won't lead you to you.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, you did a great job.
Thanks.
How do you feel? Do you think you got everything?
I think I got everything.
You did really good. You're a really good storyteller.
I try.